we do now, not in 5 years, not in 10 years, what we do now determines the rest of the course of human history.
They have to realize how important it is. And the only way you can reach that is by really giving them the feeling, oh my gosh, where did I start?
I wanted to be more exposed to the problems we're facing. I felt like I was not that schooled in a way.
I was just looking for this more collaborative atmosphere with people that are into sustainability.
If we as human beings doesn't actually take care of the planet we're living in, who do we expect to come and take care of it? Aliens?
I don't want to sugarcoat how difficult the transitions are going to be. But the story we tell beyond that is that there are still meaningful lives that we can build together.
I don't think I can go back to a version of myself that was before Bildung.
After I did my postdoc in Denmark on sustainability education, I went through a phase of deep anxiety, and you could even call it eco-depression. We were educating young people for a certain kind of future, but the science was telling us that a very different future was coming our way. And so I felt almost intellectually and emotionally dishonest. I couldn't lie to myself and I couldn't lie to my students, and I actually went on leave for a little while to think about if I wanted to continue in education at all. And if I wanted to continue, it had to be in a different way. If we wanted to think about what would education look like that really serves the needs of the generation that's going to have to deal with decreasing fossil fuel use, increasing climate instability, increasing geopolitical instability, food shortages, etc., we need, I think, to first step outside the system before we can come back in. And one of the chief inspirations I had for stepping out of the system was the Danish folk high schools. Some years ago, I discovered the concept of Bildung, which was a philosophy for personal development and community building, where young people from farming backgrounds, some working class backgrounds, came to learn, first of all, vocational skills related to innovative farming techniques, but also aesthetics and community building. And so these young people who would not have been exposed to any kind of formal education before got to take part in singing, in dancing, in basics of humanities. It would have been the first time that the working classes had a chance to think broader than just from one day to the next. We realized that one of the key problems that prevented personal flourishing and sustainable development of education in the Netherlands was this separation between the vocational, applied, and university education. And that makes it very difficult down the line to say, hey, we need to bring all of you together to solve this complex societal problem. When I was doing my research on VMBOs, I was hearing 15-year-olds telling me they were too stupid to study or go any further in their education. And I think that is really a toxic culture in which we devalue manual labor and technical professions, whereas we need them. We cannot do this transition without the technical professions. And similarly, I don't think it's healthy that anybody who spends 5 years or however long it is studying finance or tax law should come out of that process completely disconnected from their body and unable to handle basic technical tasks. So while it may sound radical that we are calling to stop the division between manual and brain labor, let's say, actually perhaps this is the most human thing to do.
You realize that the climate and the issues at hand, like global warming, pollution, and all the reasons behind it, it's not going to be taken down or like tackled or changed through like just laws and legislations. Like those are needed, but you also need to like reach people. Like people need to want this to happen, and that's done through, you know, communication and art and expression. So there needs to be like a combination of both, or else, you know, we're just going to be like fighting different fights.
And that's where the climate school is not just about building awareness and knowledge about the climate crisis, which is what sustainability programs I think have been focused on, but really how do we build individual and collective resilience.
I would say it's somehow an educational laboratory where, on the one hand, trying to integrate different types of education, bring people together with different backgrounds, but of course, on the other hand, preparing students for the future.
We see education as not only a place where you learn practical skills, but education also as an arena or a space where you also develop yourself as a person. So that you find out more who you are, what your values are, what you want to work on, what your biases are, how you can deal with your biases. So what we actually do is we help to personally develop themselves within the group, so they learn from each other, from each other's perspectives, within the bigger picture of climate change.
We get young people from MBO, HBO and university to work together on real life sustainability challenges. And that means they have to draw upon each other's strengths, but also learn how to deal with each other's weaknesses and differences in cultural background. And that's why the program is focused on the kinds of skills that actually none of them get, like creativity, embodied learning, arts, music, dancing, boxing. Those are not the kinds of things you do at a university or an MBO or a HBO.
It's like a holistic approach from different aspects. So it's not only cognitive, but it's peer-to-peer learning and all the different kinds of classes that they get. So it's not studying from out of a book and following lectures, but it's really active.
At university, we're really used to sitting with like 900 people in one classroom, looking at one teacher and his PowerPoint deck, and he just goes through it. And then when you're at Bildung, they make it more touchable and not as abstract as normal classes.
There's like a poster in the room that says like, "Why teach like this?" And it's like the teacher with all the students, and it's just like arrows going to the students. And it's like, when learning is like this, and it's like all these different kinds of interactions.
What counts for me when I'm teaching here is not that much that I think, oh, I have this message or I have these elements of knowledge that I want to bring to the students and they have to learn that. But here I would say it's more about, well, making them think about things in a different way, offering them different perspective, different tools, bringing them into a discussion with each other also.
We learn something and we do it either the next day or the same day still, and actually apply it.
I'm retaining so much more information naturally because we're having discussions and we're drawing things and we're doing games and exercises.
They give you like exercises and like they ask your opinion.
And it's so much more effective. I could take an exam right now and I'd like pass this class. You know what I mean?
With confidence.
For the past 5 or 6 years, I've been studying how young people are affected by learning either through formal education or through media or social media about our environmental crises. And the typical reaction that you get from students is a form of denial, bargaining, anxiety, anger, and a feeling of powerlessness and hopelessness of, I can't do anything about this, so why should I even bother? It's a kind of shutting down emotion.
And if this society has a couple of big challenges like mental health, like climate change, then we should train and practice with our students how they can deal with those bigger challenges and give them the tools and the mindset how to be able to function in such a world.
You can give them a lot of knowledge and a lot of information, but if they don't feel it, then they are not going to think about it any longer. They have to realize how important it is. And the only way you can reach that is by really giving them the feeling how up the situation regarding sustainability is.
When we start the program, the Climb School, they get a class on planetary boundaries from me, and that hits them really hard. Because in 45 minutes, I just go through every boundary and explain to them what the consequences are of breaching that boundary. And when you put it all together, it's not a pretty picture.
When Jeannie gave us all of the data about the world and what's happening and what's the actual numbers of things, I was like, wow, I never heard this before. Like, I never saw this before. Only on like, Instagram posts, and people say, oh, the world's gonna end. But then you just scroll and it's life again.
It made a huge impact on me. Like it was like eye-opening. I don't think I can go back to a version of myself that was before Bildung even.
And then I thought, yeah, I'm not gonna come next week because it's too much. Like I'm not gonna be able to cope everything, living and just being aware of how up the situation is, because this is what made me at least very stuck.
If we have an 11-week course and every week we learn about how bad the state is, and we never learn to deal with that, I know it would crop up, for me at least.
Yeah, if you're struggling, you're not going to be able to like help other people.
No,
who are
exactly.
struggling.
We had like one previous student who came here to like explain what she did based on what she learned in Bildung Climate, and she said her tip was basically first take care of yourself, and then you can actually build on that and do something about it.
I understand that the message that you have to look after your own well-being first before you try and save the world can sound a little individualistic, but having been in the environmental activist sphere for a number of years, I've seen too many burnouts to feel like it's productive to try and carry the weight of the world on your shoulders without making sure your shoulders are strong enough first. So that's not to say take care of yourself and to hell with the rest. It's to say first take care of yourself, and that is a condition for you to be able to then play your part in the transition. And that's the power of Bildung. It's personal development combined with community development.
We specifically worked on the emotions that came up around talking about climate change, anger, frustration, anxiety, and what that does to our reactions in how we respond to it with our behavior. For instance, you are so angry with the world, you want to protest, but you also feel more frustrated that there's nothing happening. So how can you transform those emotions into something that you feel that you have ownership and you are really making a change instead of just shouting off of a bridge. And the boxing therapy in the sessions was actually about making them aware of how you move and what those emotions do in your body.
I think for me, it actually helped in controlling the emotions, because the information, when you think about it, you saw, okay, these people are deliberately doing this just to make profit. You get very angry, and if you keep that anger inside, that's my opinion, it's really unhealthy.
In boxing, you have all these elements where you have to work under pressure, so you have to counter, you have to defend, but you also have to keep breathing, you have to keep an overview, so it's very important that you stay grounded.
What was that one class with the breathing exercises? Were you there for that?
Yeah, I was.
I took that home. I still like do the
that?
breathing exercises.
Damn, look at that.
I like actually fully learned like how to manage like anxiety. It was crazy.
This stress management helps them to understand how actually their physical body is related to what they feel and their emotions. And by training them in how to manage those feelings and emotions, they can actually work towards the challenge without becoming too anxious or becoming too nervous.
And I think at the end of the day, they're balancing the depressing information about the world with fun activities to help you not only deal with the depressing information, but to also make sure that they're not just overwhelming you with all these horrible, horrible facts.
I think it also helped a lot for the feeling more as a group, because like we all were so outside of our comfort zones doing something so weird, and but at least we're doing it together, you know?
Students are actually formed and shaped by the existing educational system they were part of. So if you come with a completely different educational approach with different pedagogy and didactics, this can be very confusing for the students, because we, the system, actually formed them in a different way. We formed them to be consumer of knowledge. So if you just ask them to do a dance workshop and they don't get the context why they're doing it, or they're not being explained why this is part of the program, then it doesn't work. And then this broader development of young people, they don't see it as interesting or valuable because they don't understand why they are doing it. So this accounts for all three target groups. For MBO, HBO, HBO, they constantly need to understand why they are doing and why they're experiencing what they are experiencing. It's a very big topic, climate change. And to make it more understandable and relatable, you can focus on different specific aspects within climate change. But what is an aspect which is very relatable for students? It's their own clothing. We all wear it. So we picked fashion as a central theme in this course, so students can understand actually what's at stake, and by buying specific clothes in a specific store, how do they actually influence the bigger picture within the whole climate that we are part of on this planet.
And it just so happened that the fashion studies were one of the 2 studies that partnered with us from Albeda. So it was really a natural fit to work with them on this topic.
De kick-off, daar was ik natuurlijk heel erg bij betrokken. Ook omdat ik een PowerPoint had gemaakt over wat is mode op dit moment. Wat betekent mode? Hoe kunnen wij ons aanpassen? Zodat het zo min mogelijk schade brengt nog. Hè? Ja, toen ik net begon met ontwerpen voor die grotere merken, toen was ik me daar nog niet zo bewust van. Natuurlijk zag ik ook dat in Hongkong, als ik daar lunchte in de pauze, de haven rood kleurde en de volgende dag was hij paars. En toen maakte ik me heel erg zorgen. Ik had me nooit gerealiseerd dat dit bestond. Ja, dat ook katoenplantages vervuilend zijn, dat wist ik toen niet. Hè? Ik bedoel, je kan zeggen van wat naïef. Nee, daar werd nauwelijks over gesproken. Katoen en natuurlijke materialen waren juist goed. We zorgden ook altijd bijna voor natuurlijke materialen, zijdes, katoen, noem maar op, vlas, etc. Maar dat is niet voldoende om duurzaam te produceren. Ook over dat ik bij een fabrikant kwam in India, waarvan ik dacht dat hij verantwoord produceerde. En toen liep ik door dat gebouw ook. En toen passeerde ik een ruimte waar jongetjes van 12 jaar zonder ventilatie, met giftige stoffen, t-shirts aan het bedrukken waren, met zwaar ontstoken ogen. En alsof ze zwaar stoned waren. En ik ben toen zo geschrokken met mijn collega dat we direct weggegaan zijn, teruggegaan zijn naar het kantoor en gelijk de samenwerking beëindigd hebben. Ja, ik heb het gelukkig weinig gezien, maar ik weet wel dat het gebeurt. Tweedehands kleding is natuurlijk ook niet altijd duurzaam. Hè? Er zijn enorm veel tweedehands kleding, enorm veel textielbergen waar kleding door mensen of door grote textielbedrijven gedumpt worden, omdat er gewoon niets mee gedaan wordt. Dat is natuurlijk doodzonde. Er zijn echt woestijnvelden vol met kledingstukken, textielbergen, wat de wereld vervuilt. Dat moet echt veranderen, ja.
There's enough clothing on the planet to dress 6 generations. So it's really one of these things like, why are we spending 10% of the world's carbon emissions on something that really we don't need? And we do need clothing, and we do need the fun, the aesthetic, the art, the community, the desire to belong. All of those things are very real and very necessary, and we want to say we don't need Shine and Temu to achieve that.
From our vision, it's more important that they also do something with those perspectives. Fashion, climate change, why not a sustainable fashion show in the end, where they actually present their clothes of their own making and show it off to an external crowd. Then you have a telos, a goal, something to work towards.
Showing it to the world, what it really means, in a creative way, in a fun way, I think it helps to really think about it more and more in depth.
I think it involves us in the process. Like, it's very easy to be like, the way we make clothes is bad, and we can make them in a sustainable way like this. It's obviously so much easier to have terrible fast fashion, and it's going to be difficult to make a switch to more sustainable fashion. But if we want to talk about that and if we want to advocate that and learn about it, we have to know
more about
the process. Like, I did not know how clothes were made, and it's hard. Like, it's a long and expensive process. If you want to have like one person sustainably, developing clothes, and there's so much of it that we need to understand for us as this like cohort to be able to then go out in the world and do something about it.
And I was a bit apprehensive, thinking, oh my, most of these students, other than the ones that are from the fashion department, can't sew, never use a sewing machine, don't know how to work with fabrics. How on earth is that going to work? So I was very apprehensive, and I thought, you know what, let's just give it a go, and if it doesn't work, we'll adjust as we go. And I need to learn to keep being surprised positively by how amazing work our team and our students are doing, because the fashion show's in 2 weeks and everything's almost ready.
My starting point is always everybody in his way of thinking or in his way of feeling or in his way of approaching his or her work or learning has a value to add. This means that how an MBO student thinks or acts is different than how university students think or act, but both can learn from each other. But in order to be able that they can learn from each other, you need to create an arena with pedagogy and didactics that actually works for both. And this is the difficult part.
When I teach a course at the university, I know with which kind of background knowledge they, more or less at least, they usually start. They are in the second year, they already had these courses and so on. And here, of course, they all have very different kinds of knowledge and backgrounds. So on the one hand, I really have to start from scratch, but I also have to make sure that it's still challenging enough, that it's not like really start only with the basics and then we stay there. But on the other hand, it's also, of course, important to have, well, respect and make sure that they don't feel like, now I feel like I have to explain everything to them from scratch. That's a bit annoying or something like that, you know, so that they really see that I'm interested in what they know and what they think about these topics, and that we do it together.
And that's so interesting to see, because now you see really the level of education and all the things they bring in that project.
Nou, wat we zeker de eerste paar weken zagen, is dat iedereen bleef een beetje op zijn eigen eilandje. De mbo-studenten bij elkaar en de hbo. Iedereen was bezig met zijn eigen specialisme. Hè. De mbo-studenten waren al direct heel praktisch. De hbo-studenten gingen direct onderzoek verrichten, alleen maar achter hun laptop. Maar in de loop der weken zie ik echt veel meer samenwerking en maken ze ook gebruik van elkaars expertise.
I don't know that much about sewing, and the people at Albeda or the fashion department, they really had a great amount of knowledge. And then other people from our group didn't know much about doing research, whilst I have to do that weekly. And I think through collaboration and being open-minded, that we're all different and that we're not from the same background, that helped a lot. Having that said, I do still think that it's sometimes hard to collaborate, because directly understanding something, it differs per person, and I feel that that is something you do really have to try to be patient in with each other.
After 2 weeks, I hear from the MBO mentor that some of the MBO students are thinking about leaving the program, and I asked if I could speak to them and what's going on, and they said, yeah, so we're doing these projects and the university students, they make us feel stupid. So I had to organize a circle with all of the students and sit around and say, what are we doing here? Are we okay to try and work through these group dynamics? What can you do to address the concerns of these MBO students? And the fact is, most of these university students had just never thought about it. It just had not occurred to them that they'd have to reach out beyond their own bubble.
I mean, I think I'm the only one that didn't make clothes before. So I'm the stupid one here. No, like you saw today, we had to make shoes, for example, which is something that, I mean, I have never even tried before, but I still think it's nice to get out of that comfort zone and actually do it in a practical way and just do it ourselves. And I mean, it didn't work perfectly because they're too small, but then we're like, okay, then we'll just make slippers out of them. You know, that still works.
For me, the whole thing of having people from different education backgrounds was, I think it's just way better than having everyone from the same educational background, because I felt like everyone just complemented the idea, like even though sometimes not everyone had the same language to communicate, but I feel like it all complemented in the sense that, for example, Noah was a very artistic person. So she worked with all the art, the illustrations, the clothing making. And then we had Natasha, Emily and Luca, which were more of the university-based education, and they did the research. So I really felt like that we complemented each other, and I think that's the perfect way to make a very nice collaborative project.
I think it's way better that we're mixed, and I think it's way better that I get to learn from people that can read really well out of books, and they get to learn from like how I like make stuff or like sew stuff. I think that's great. I think that I've learned way more here in like the 10 weeks that I've been here than in like 1 year of school, maybe.
And I ask people who come visit the climate school, can you guess which of our students are MBO, HBO University? And they can't. And I think this kind of empowering social dynamics is an essential part of the transition.
De
it's amazing to see what kind of creations they have, not only on the runway piece, but also on the exhibition stand. And I'm sure that a lot of people who are joining the Sustainable Fashion Show will be surprised in what kind of things they have achieved in such a small period of 11 weeks.
I'm in the group of ultra fast fashion, so with our outfits we're criticizing how powerful this industry is that really makes you consume all the time, and we just want to bring this whole idea into an outfit that it's a lot, it's devastating, there's blood, there is labor, children being exploited, and we just wanted to translate that in an outfit in a way that we will make them kind of reflect about how fast everything is and how they're just consuming without reflecting about it.
We have two pieces, right? We have a wedding dress in plastic. Under that we have a revolution piece, and it's like plastic free basically. So that was like our idea, but we were like struggling with like how are we gonna get these pieces to like fall, or to, 'cause we have to take it off at some point to reveal the revolution piece underneath. And that was like a stress moment.
Yeah. I mean, we pulled through.
Yeah, we did. We found a solution, so.
For us, because we're fossil fuel free fashion, it's impossible to do that right now because the entire system is made that way, that there is fossil fuel in it. The only way we could make fossil fuel free fashion, we found out, was by growing organic cotton in our own back garden, not using any chemical fertilizers to grow it, then using something to spin the cotton so you can a thread. You have to do it by hand, so or with solar power in a way, and then also making from the thread a fabric. You also have to do it in a sustainable way. And if you go on like that, it's at the moment impossible to make a truly sustainable fabric.
Yeah, to tie that into the practical, what we did now then is, this is already made, this has already used those fertilizers, it's going to be thrown away. Let's just do it in the sense of, okay, if we don't use it, it's going to be thrown away. It's been wasted for nothing. Our thing is not an additional burden on the climate. We'll have to do it in that manner. And I think that's what a lot of the practical stuff taught me, is that you have to do what you can, and it's okay if not everything can be fixed. It's okay if you can't apply all your knowledge.
That's why we went and picked out old clothes that people no longer wanted as the basis for creating new clothes. How can we still have fun, still cater to our desire for beauty and aesthetics and all of that, without trashing the planet?
The whole process just made me realize how easy it is to make clothes. You just need a community, you just need people, you just need people to get ideas from and talk to. And that's what we made. Like, even though it's not the most perfect thing ever, it's doable.
I would never have thought that I would be able to like make a fashion, like a piece, a clothing piece, with our team, and also like a whole film. I've never done that, so that was like pretty cool.
We've run 2 successful pilots. Next year will be the 3rd and final pilot, where we try and onboard societal stakeholders to build our internships program. And then we've received the financing to move forward with a very ambitious full-time minor program. It'll be a minor for the HBO and university students and an elective for the MBO students. It'll be the first credited or point-giving program that combines all 3 educations in the Netherlands. Down the line, we're never going to build a program for 600 students here, because that would defeat the point and purpose of what we're doing. The Bildung Climate School, by definition, will always be small-ish scale, but it can be multiplied. So what I want to see is that we inspire educators around the Netherlands and then around the world to think, hey, you know what? These barriers in education that I thought were set in stone, I can also do something to challenge them. And if we are serious about societal transitions, if we are serious about giving young people a chance for a meaningful, resilient future, that's going to mean a general societal effort and investment in the future of young people. And I understand that we need models, we need inspiring stories for people to put their money, their time, their energy behind. We're providing the model, so now we're just asking policymakers to give us their support.